This is Plant-Based Briefing. All children should have their cholesterol checked between ages 9 and 11 by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. And I'm Marian Erickson. This is the Plant-Based Podcast where I curate and narrate with permission a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living. And yesterday I read an article about cholesterol as well, so you might want to check that out. It was about what's normal for cholesterol levels versus what's optimal. And I want to take a second just to give a shout out and a thank you to Valerie up in Michigan. She took the time to email me. This was over a month ago now. But she wrote, "I love your podcast and always learn so much. In fact, I'm so thankful for the recent episode on calcium and calcium supplements. I didn't know that calcium supplements can cause health problems. I'm going to talk to my doctor about it. I truly appreciate your work." And oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking the time to reach out. I really, really appreciate it. And another shout out to Carrie from Australia, who so often takes the time to like and comment on my podcast on YouTube. It's like we're having a conversation, and it's so nice to be connecting with people through this. So I appreciate you. If anyone else wants to reach out, my email can be found in the footer of the website plantbasedbriefing.com. Or it would also be helpful if you left a review on Apple Podcasts, and that just might help the algorithm help others decide to listen if they come across the show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. All children should have their cholesterol checked between ages 9 and 11 by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. Coronary artery disease does not magically appear. The disease begins during early childhood and progresses unrecognized for several decades to its often final and unexpected endpoint of chest pain, disability, or premature death. We need to remind ourselves that atherosclerosis begins in childhood as fatty streaks in the arteries, which are the precursors of the advanced lesions that ultimately kill us. By the time we're in our 20s, 20% of the inner surface of the artery coming off the heart is covered in fatty streaks. 50 years ago, pathologists began raising the question of whether heart disease is best handled by cardiologists or pediatricians. By their 30s, many young adults already have advanced coronary atherosclerosis, so in reality, intervention during our 30s and beyond is actually secondary prevention because advanced atherosclerosis is likely already present. Indeed, intervention is just trying to mediate the ravages of the disease rather than prevent the disease itself. What's more, we are exporting the problem around the world. A study of young, thin, apparently healthy individuals found 97% of their collected arteries had atherosclerosis. So even in developing countries like Brazil, where they've acquired our eating habits, we've seen an epidemic of heart disease and sudden death. Moreover, the risk factors that correlate with the extent of such early lesions are the same risk factors that correlate with myocardial infarction or heart attacks later in life. In other words, it's the same disease, but in the early stages. So pathologists, the ones doing the autopsies on all these young people and seeing all this coronary artery disease, began urging many years ago that preventive measures should be instituted earlier in life. We've known that fatty streaks exist in young children for more than a century, but it wasn't until 1994 that a task force convened by the government came up with a radical idea. The strategic key and the greatest opportunity in preventing cardiovascular disease is to prevent the development of cardiovascular disease risk in the first place. Fatty streaks, the first stage of atherosclerosis, were found in the arteries of nearly 100% of kids by age 10 who were raised on the standard American diet. In recognition of this fact, the latest Academy of Pediatrics recommendation is for all kids to get their cholesterol tested starting between the ages of 9 and 11. Of course, this has drug companies salivating at the thought of slipping statins into Happy Meals, but long-term drug intervention is costly and may be associated with adverse effects. So, the conversation is about lifestyle modification. In my video, How Many Meet the Simple 7, linked here, I reveal the breathtaking statistic that only about 1 in 2,000 U.S. adults met the 7 American Heart Association criteria for a heart-healthy lifestyle, which include not smoking, not being overweight, being very active, defined as walking at least 22 minutes a day, a few fruits and veggies, below average cholesterol, normal blood pressure, and normal blood sugars. What about American teenagers? Of the 4,673 adolescents aged 12 to 19 who were studied, 0 made the cut. Not one teen exhibited ideal levels of all 7 cardiovascular health behaviors and health factors. Most teen boys and girls don't smoke, and most aren't overweight. What was the main sticking point? Almost no one ate a healthy diet. Indeed, less than 1% of young men and women met a minimum of healthy diet criteria. This sorry state of affairs is what's behind a controversial valuation that the current generation of U.S. children and adolescents may be one of the first generations to be less healthy and have shorter life expectancy than their parents. You just listened to All Children Should Have Their Cholesterol Checked Between Ages 9 and 11 by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. I've done a number of other episodes about cholesterol and heart health, so wherever you listen, use that search field and put cholesterol in, or go to plantbasedbriefing.com under the episodes page and type in cholesterol and those will pop up. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.